Greetings, listeners. It is I, Hilariously Scary, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Overseers podcast. Welcome. I'm not going to go on a whole 5-minute rant about 5 minutes, like that's long. I'm not going to go on a whole rant about how it's super late, okay? We have a new location. This could work, but the episodes are going to have to start coming out like Wednesday. Anyways, that's as much as I'm going to say, but check it out. Listen how quiet it is. Listen to the freaking sound quality. It's because I'm in a closet and I'm sitting on the ground and it does smell like feet because I am surrounded by shoes. But it's fine. It's totally fine. Let's get into it. So, when we left off, we had Ambition. He was talking to Pippa. He was in a dream. Wait, no. Okay, so Ambition has dream powers, right? And he was dream stalking Method for totally normal heterosexual reasons. And he found out that Method was going to get married, was betrothed, and it's marriage day coming up. If you remember in their society, marriage is kind of like graduation, where like there's just one big day where like everybody gets married to each other. So marriage day is coming up, and Method and Quest are both on the block to get married. I had like this whole worked out in my brain as to why they were like 2 years apart but getting married on the same day. I want to say it's because they're also getting married to siblings. So I think that it was like determined by like how old the guy is. Like when the guy had just turned 18 or is going to turn 18, then that's when it was. And like Jim, who's Quest betrothed, hadn't turned 18. Like he was younger than Illustration. Or something. I don't remember. Okay, everybody just pretend like this works out, okay? Because past Sarah definitely worked this out, and I trust her. Ambition decided to go back to his home planet, to totally make it so that, because he was like, okay, so Method just isn't in love with his betrothed, and that's why he's like stressing out over the idea of marrying her. So I'm gonna give them like the best 5 dates ever. And it's going to be wicked awesome. But then Pippa points out, like, hey, if you go down there, like, you're going to have to spend, like, the first, like, week establishing, like, where you've been and what happened after your mom locked Method in the basement. And so he's like, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with that. And also, like, the reason that he hadn't, like, gone and said hi to Method, well, first of all, because, you know, Method's dad absolutely hated Ambition after, well, I mean, like, you know, his dad didn't want his kid around. He didn't want Method and Ambition hanging out after Ambition's mom, you know, locked Method in the basement. But then also, like, Ambition was, like, a whole, like, thing. Like, I don't want to ruin Method's life, but I don't want to remind him of the worst thing that ever happened to him because of, like, you know, my existence would remind him of that. So anyway, so he decides to go as disguised as the explorer's son and takes the name The One Who Is Ambitious, which is, like, I know I've been calling him Ambition. I'm just pretending like they've been calling him, like, Squawk Lock and Teetlutu and Flop La La Pla 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 and Wubba Lubba Dub Dub and all that stuff, you know, like, but they translate to Ambition. But he does go back home and he poses as the explorer's son and he tells them that his name is The One Who Is Ambitious. I say this because the drawing for this podcast, if I remember to put the drawing with it, will be a life, what is it called? What is it called? Real-time drawing of the explorer's son, which is basically this is what Ambition looks like when he is posing as the explorer's son, you know, very, very, very simple. I wasn't really, that wasn't really what I was going for, but, like, I posted the image and somebody was like, I can already smell the Sims, and then just boom, comments were just like, yes, the swag, the amazing. So, yeah, so please do simp for him. No, do what you want. Do what you want with this design, okay? He's a wizard boy. He's a magic wizard boy, and we love him. So, yeah, so anyway, so imagine in your heads, as you're imagining this story while playing Temple Run. I actually did get back into playing Temple Run because of this podcast, and I have no one to blame but myself. So, imagine that Ambition, you know, he creates this disguise, he comes up with this name with Pippa, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so he goes back down to AMC Fosness, or, you know, however you pronounce this planet's name, and he finds Method and Quest. And I could honestly go through like a bye. I don't know what the term is. I should mention though that, like, all this stuff with Method and Ambition, I did try to write a novella. Well, I wrote a whole novella about it. It was called Blue Dye, and to this day, I do not know why it was called Blue Dye. I don't remember why I started calling it. It didn't have anything to do with the book. I think I just thought Blue Dye was a cool name. Anyways, I wrote this whole novella for Camp NaNoWriMo, and I actually vlogged it. And maybe I'll link the vlogs. I don't really like them anymore. But this isn't going to be like last time where I'm going to be like, yeah, I totally wrote this whole novella about this story. And then, I guess I'll just publish it all on my website. Like, because Blue Dye, the events as it happens in Blue Dye, like, I didn't really have Method established as a character, and I didn't really have, like, a solid plot that I was doing. I was just kind of winging it, and I don't like it. And it's not, like, the writing, it's just, I can't remember if I actually talked about this last time because I recorded the episode twice, but I'm just gonna say it like I haven't. Basically, there was, like, no romance. I forgot the romance in my romance novel, and it was supposed to be like a romance science fantasy novel, and I like, you read this entire book, and by the end of it, you don't really ship Method and Ambition at all. And I asked my, like, friends that were, like, really into MLM shipping, and they're like, yeah, I don't really ship them, and I don't like the book. So I will not be releasing it. And you may be thinking, because it's also not canon, and you may be thinking, like, well, if it's not canon, well, what's the harm in releasing it? And basically it's because I don't want to confuse people as to what is the canon. If it's like, I released this novella, and then people are like, oh, so that's what happened? And I'm like, no, what I talked about in the podcast is what happened. But then it's like the novella is, like, out there. I don't want to confuse people, and also I don't like it. So this isn't going to be me explaining the plot of Blue Dye. It's going to be me explaining what I came up with, a new plot, because I actually was like, I'm going to rewrite this entire thing. So this is, like, the new plot that's still canon, but it's not the plot of Blue Dye. Just people asking me, when are you going to publish Blue Dye? I'm not going to, unless I rewrite it. But this is what it would be rewritten as, is basically what I'm saying. So the book would begin, with, like, Ambition. Oh, also Ambition, I totally forgot this. So Ambition, going through his adventures, at one point he finds this ship in Sid. And it's, like, this giant ship, but it's, like, empty. But there's, like, clearly signs that, like, people used to live on this ship. And it's just parked in the middle of the space in between dimensions. Well, I don't know if it's the middle of the space in between dimensions. It's a very big space. I don't think that there is a middle. And he's like, yo, well, what's with this ship? But because he doesn't want to, I imagine this is like when he's like 16 or so, he's been, like, hanging out with Pippa a lot. He doesn't want to live under Sammy's roof and, like, the mysterious, creepy house that can never really be his own because you can't really change anything in it. So he just takes this ship, and then, like, he's like, Pippa, check it out. I've got a spaceship. And she's like, you have space powers. Why do you need a spaceship? He's like, this is cool. So anyway, so he takes over this spaceship, and it's way too big for him. So he just has, like, rooms and rooms that are empty, and he's just like, but it's a giant spaceship and it's mine, so this is his home now. He lives on this spaceship. Anyway, so he takes the spaceship and he takes it to Ansiphosnas, and he, like, parks it outside because there's cloaking devices. It's one of these ships where, like, you can hide. Anyway, so he goes down, and I think I talked about this last time, but basically he goes down and he's like, hello, Quest and Method. And I can actually, like, bring back this old image because, like, the very first iteration of Blue Dye, Method and Illustration didn't know Ambition. He just found out that they were, like, fans of his dad's book series, and he's like, I'm gonna take him on an adventure now. So basically that happens where, like, he shows up and is just like like pretending to just be, like, at the library, and he's like, very clearly, like, coloring similar to the Explorer. He's got the, like, single earring. So Quest comes up like, hey sir, how can I help you? And he's like, oh, I don't suppose you would have any of the Explorer's books. And she's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was such a big fan of that series as a kid. You look like you were definitely in the fandom. And, they get to talking, and Quest is like, oh yeah, me and my brother and, like, a childhood friend of ours, childhood friend, we used to be really into it. And so eventually, like, Method comes over and he's like, what are y'all doing? Anyway, and then and then Quest is like, dude, you have to get in all this conversation. So they get to talking about the Explorer series and all this stuff, and Quest is like, oh, I was such Team Sammy, but, like, Method would never really cared about any of that stuff. And Ambition is like, oh yeah, I never really was into the shipping. And eventually Quest, like, comments on his earring. She's like, oh, it's so cool that you have the earring, like, just like the Explorer. And he's like, oh, yeah, this earring, you know, it was actually a gift from my father. And she's like, oh, that's cool. Was he into the series too? And that's when he's like, my father was the Explorer. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, he wrote the novels? And Ambition's like, no. He did, but, like, he also, like, was the Explorer. And they're like, what? And he, like, you know, reaches out his hands and, like, makes some of the, like, a book float over to him or something. And he was like, I've got magical powers. And so did my dad. Like, all of this. And then, of course, you know, Quest is just like, what? And so, yeah, so he's like, yeah, everything in the books was real. And she's like, oh my gosh, what? You're the Explorer's son? And he's like, yeah, I am. And she's like, is Sammy your mom? And Ambition, because, like, Pippa is always, like, making fun of Ambition, like, calling Sammy his mom, and he has, like, mommy issues, so he's like, Sammy's not my mom, and, you know, it's just like, oh, I love him. Anyways, but, of course, he doesn't say it like that. He's like, Sammy's not my mom. My mom was, it was Angel, yeah. And she's like, what? But I thought Angel was dead. And he's like, yeah, no, it's different. Don't worry about it. Anyways, the important thing is that this is me actually wondering if I ever explained what happened to Infinity's novel. It is so difficult because I, like, talk about stuff on Tumblr and then I talk about stuff in the podcast. I can't remember. I don't think I did. So basically what happened to Infinity's novel is because he died. No, I think I did. I talked about, well, I'll give a review just in case. So basically, because Infinity was dead, his editor Expression wrote an ending to the book where it was like in the Explorer. I actually have to consult ARI. It's okay, yeah. So in Expression's version, he says that the Explorer, like, admits that, like, Angel was dead the entire time. She had always been dead. He was just pretending to look after her, search for her, chasing after a delusion, like this very bittersweet ending. But anyways, so that's the last thing that Quest and Method read from the Explorer's universe. So Ambition is like, yeah, most of the stuff in the book was real. I mean, there's, like, artistic liberties and stuff. And she's like, yeah, I mean, apparently, like, the Explorer was going on all these adventures with Angel. And he's like, yes, something like that. Yeah, so anyways, but you were actually the Explorer's #1 fan, and Quest is like, I was? And he's like, yeah, and she's like, no, I mean, I've seen some people online, there's much bigger fans, and he was like, but you were the only true fan, you know, because, like, I feel like the Explorer had one of those fandoms where, like, you know, the fandom, a lot of people, it becomes, like, most people only read up to, like, the 4th or 5th book, and then they just, like, lose themselves in the fanon and don't care about the canon anymore. So, like, basically Ambition's angle is, like, but you actually truly cared about the series more than anyone, even though you weren't active in the fandom as active as some people. And she's like, wow, I can't believe that #1 fan is a quantifiable thing, and I am the #1 fan of the Explorer's book. And Method is, like, kind of just standing in the background, like, okay, but why are you here? And Ambition is like, well, you know, he's like, to honor my father's legacy. Also, my father's super dead. He probably tells them that at some point, and they're like, oh, that sucks. But, like, anyway, so he's like, to honor my father's legacy, you know, every wedding day, I find some of his old fans, and I take them on adventures through the galaxy. And I thought, you know, this wedding day, this year, I'll take you and your betrothed. And hey, I mean, your brother's also a fan. I mean, I guess I'll take him and his betrothed. And Method is like, yeah, pass. And he's like, what do you mean pass? He's like, Method's like, I mean, we were just gonna go on, like, the 5 standard dates. Like, it's not, we don't really need to. And Quest is like, Method, are you freaking crazy? Of course you're gonna go on the freaking adventure across the galaxy with me. Let's go. And Method is like, we're gonna have to ask Illustration and Jim if they're okay with this. And Quest is like, why would they not be okay with this? And Method is like, yeah, actually, like, are we supposed to keep this a secret? How are you just, like, taking people on adventures throughout the galaxy? Why nobody's heard of the Explorer fandom in years? What? And Ambition's like, don't worry about it. Oh my gosh. And Quest is like, yeah, you're such a spoil sport, Method. It's like classic, like, sibling banter where they love each other, I swear. So they gather Method. Okay, so Method is betrothed to this girl, Illustration. I love her. And Quest is, that was me trying to not scream I love her. If I sounded angry, it was because that was me being restrained. And Quest is betrothed to this guy, Jim. Jim and Illustration are also the children of librarians. Basically, the idea was Method will marry Illustration, and Illustration will move to his town and help him run the library with his cousins. And Quest will marry Jim, and she will move to his town, and Quest will help him with, like, his library and stuff. I think? Yeah, probably. So, of course, you know, they somehow get in contact with Illustration and Jim, and they, like, all meet at the library, and, you know, they're getting to know each other. Ambition is like, tell me about yourself, like, oh, this is so cool, you guys are so gonna fall so deep in love, I have the best thing sorted out. So, you know, Illustration is, like, you know, very bubbly. She actually is very much, she seems a lot like Ambition, where she's, like, I don't know, she's, like, very powerful, I would describe her as. Like, she knows what she wants, she's assertive, she's, like, she knows what she wants, she knows when she wants them, she's kind of, like, snarky a little bit, and, like, she can come off as very, like, lightheaded and, like, airheaded and, like, ditzy, but, like, behind it, it's, like, she's, like, actually very intelligent. Like, that's the thing about Illustration, is that she's actually, like, she's very selectively, she's very selective, and she's very, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I was gonna say selectively intelligent, which makes sense in my brain. Like, she doesn't expose her true power to everybody, but, like, when you get to know her, like, she is, like, a true friend, you know? That didn't make any sense, but I'm gonna go with it. And Jim is just, like, he's grumpy, he's annoyed at everybody, he doesn't like anything, he's negative, and he's just, like, he is not having a good time. He is basically Dan Versus from, he is basically, what is the guy's name? From Dan from Dan Versus. You know, that guy. That's Jim. Does anybody remember Dan Versus? It is 2022, and I am referencing Dan Versus. I have art of Illustration. I have an illustration of Illustration, but I don't actually have any art of Jim. It's also Jim spelled G-E-M, which would be a really good name for my Never Rulers universe. But yeah, so it's G-E-M. I'm not saying, like, Jim. Like, his name isn't Jimmy. Like, no, it's Jim. I realize out of context, it's like, it sounds like the name Jim, like J-I-M, and so I have my characters Ambition, Illustration, Method, Question, and Jim. That's the cast of characters. We got Jim. So, of course, Ambition is like, you guys gotta be super secretive about this. You can't go telling everybody that, you know, magic is real and aliens are too. And they're like, yeah, totally, man. Like, just take us on, like, this wild adventure. So, yeah. So, the idea is between the 5 dates, I think it's, like, 5 weeks. Like, you go on a date, one date, like, every, like, Friday or whatever their equivalent is for 5 weeks. So, there was, so, like, the book would be about these 5 dates that they go on, and I had notes about the 5 dates, but, like, I have very limited notes. Like, I remember I created, like, a whole thing for this in my head, but I didn't write down anything, so, of course, you know, I don't remember. Oh, yeah, apparently, Ambition was supposed to, like, save Method from a bus. The amount of times that characters either get hit by a truck or a big vehicle or almost do in my old writing, it is just, like, my default. That's just my default. My default, I'm like, what should happen? Somebody should get hit by a bus. Ugh. Just so you know, I actually do still have a character that gets hit by a bus. I'm allowed one. I am allowed one character who gets hit by a bus. Apparently they're called the 5 rights. So we have, and okay, so each one of them was going to focus on a different character. So, like, each one of the characters had, like, some flaw that they needed to overcome. I don't remember what any of them were. Okay, so, like, Jim, obviously, like, he's aggressive, right? Quest, I think she was, like avoidant. No, but Method was avoidant. Like, Quest was overly positive, right? And she like wouldn't like talk about anything negative. Like, I guess they're like two different types of avoidant, because Quest is all like positive, 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 let's stay positive, don't think about any of the bad stuff, and they can't catch up with you. Whereas Method is just like, let's not do anything, let's just not feel anything, and then we can't feel the bad things. And so like it's not really like he's stewing in negativity, it's more of just like complete neutrality, right? And then illustration has no flaws, she's a queen, but I think that she was like too controlling. I think that was it. Like throughout the book, like she would like try to like control everything that Method did, and Method would just kind of like let her, because he like doesn't care, because if he starts caring, then he starts feeling sad. So he's just extreme apathy. So like at the beginning of the book, like Jim is extremely aggressive, you know, Quest is like, everybody's probably right, let's come to a compromise and let's just move on and keep being happy. And illustration is like bossing everybody around, and Method is just in the back like, do not associate with me, do not speak to me, I would rather not exist. So I don't know what all of these characters' damage is. I mean, they live in a society, they live in a bad society. I needed to say that we live in a society line. I will never stop saying that line. So basically each one of the 5 dates was supposed to like address each one of their issues. So I have written down, make your own picnic, a bouquet of flowers, pick out soulmate's bouquet, and then focus on Jim's asexuality. I don't remember Jim being asexual, but I think he was supposed to be aro-ace, because he's the fifth wheel. Yeah, he is the fifth wheel. Like, ambition seems like the fifth wheel, but then like actually in the end Jim ends up being the fifth wheel. But but they're friends. Like, it's not like a, yeah, because he's like, fifth wheel / POS, positive intention, lighthearted, we love you, Jim. I had like this whole thing though. So like they like go to this alien planet that's like all flowers and like, you know, like cutesy stuff, and like they had some sort of ritual on this planet where like you make a bouquet, like everybody goes out and picks flowers and makes a specific bouquet for their soulmates, and then everybody like lines up the bouquets, and then you have to like go out and find the one that your soulmate picked for you. And it's like this very cute thing where like if you find the bouquet that if you out of all the bouquets, if you know which bouquet is your soulmate's bouquet, then it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that would like you two are soulmates. But then the thing is, on this planet, because you know flowers is like a big part of their culture, like everybody knows what their soulmate's flower would like, so it ends up like all of the other couples are able to like pick out their bouquets really easily. Also, some of the couples are the same gender, and they're like, wait, so they're like friends soulmates, and Ambition is like, no, and he has to explain gay people to them, and they're like, you can do that? And they're like, you can do that? I mean, you can do that? Anyways, but yeah, so they all pick out each other's bouquets, and then it's left with like these 4 bouquets, and all of them are like, well, there definitely are bouquets, but we don't know who picked out what for each other because we just met each other. And so, you know, eventually Illustration is like, oh, I know which one Quest got for me. I mean, the Method. I said Quest, I meant Method. Editing Sarah's tired. And then wait, I think that they were like missing a bouquet or something. It was like supposed to be like symbolic. Like there's one bouquet that was missing, and it was Jim's bouquet, and Jim was like, I think he was supposed to get like really mad and like be like, well, I don't even want to be here. Like I don't want to like marry you, which seems pretty extreme for the first date. But basically like Ambition like goes and like talks to Jim, and Jim's like, I'm gonna be honest, like I don't really want to get married. And Ambition is like, okay, but like you can't just like blow up like that. And they have a great little talk, and Jim comes to some magical conclusion and is like, you're right, I shouldn't be mad, and even if I don't want to marry Quest all that much, you know, she's still my betrothed, and I shouldn't be mean to her. And he like goes back and apologizes. That was my idea for the book. I'm sure the scene would have turned out a lot better if like I had thought about this more. Anyways, I remember even less about the other rites. So we have Dancing on the Air, and that was supposed to be floating on Quest focusing on quests. I just remember having this scene where like they're dancing in this big hall, but like gravity is different. So it's basically that one scene from Ready Player One, but I don't think I'd seen that. I don't think I'd seen the movie. I probably read the book. Anyways, and then there was a meteor shower in the daytime. I was super obsessed with this idea, but I don't remember anything about it, and the focus was on illustration and her controlling issues. And then I guess these are only 4 dates. Oh, okay. So the 4th date was karaoke. I love karaoke scenes of books. Every single, I recently exposed my AO3 account, and you will see every single one of the book, every single fan fiction I write, there's a karaoke scene. There is always a karaoke scene because I love karaoke. So basically, Ambition takes them to this fancy restaurant, on one of these planets, on one of these like super high-tech planets that are like, techno gray. Maybe, we can like say that it's on like the trader planets. And he takes them to this restaurant where the gig is you can get your food for free. The better you sing, the less your food will cost. So if you give like a banger of a performance, you get your food for free. And Ambition's like, don't worry guys, I got this. And so he gets up there and he sings this song. And also throughout the entire book, he's like, Method, I know I'm supposed to be, and like, he's basically like re-falling in love with Method all over again. Because like I definitely think like when they were kids, like he did have like a small crush on him. But then seeing him as an adult, it's just like my boy just like and it's just like he wants to make Method happy, Method just seems so sad and lost, like throughout the entire book. Like he barely says anything, he barely connects with anything. He's just like, okay, yeah, we're making a banquet now. A bouquet now. Okay, yeah, I guess we're dancing now, and I'm dancing with illustration. And at first, Ambition thinks like, man, illustration's really got this guy underneath his thumb. But then even when illustration backs off and is like, yeah, Method is still just completely miserable, and Ambition is like, I don't get it, why are you not happy? Your wife is amazing, why you should be happy. But then also secretly he's like, I wish I could be the one that was gonna marry you. Secretly. He doesn't even admit it to himself secretly, Breaks his heart to see Method so sad all the time. And he knows that he's like, I know why you're sad. It's because of me. And the freaking angst, man. So he gives this banger of a performance. And canonically, he sings this song. How does it go? I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called 1,000 Stars. I wrote this song when I was 14, 15, and I love it to death, and I've never been able to make it because basically the only thing I have written of the song is the chorus. But it's a song about an immortal who falls in love with a human soul, and the human soul keeps on getting reincarnated. And it's basically singing maybe I should. I don't know. I could give y'all a acapella rendition. It's a song that's very near and dear to my heart. So it goes like, over 1,000 stars in the sky, but only one you in 1,000 years could go by, and I'll still miss you, and at the end of the world were to come, at least I'd be right there beside you. It doesn't matter where, when, or how. Wait. Dang it, I changed the lyrics here, but I sang them for so many years that I can't remember. Okay, I think it was it doesn't matter why, where, how, I want you to come be with me right now, I'll stay with you, and if everything were to change, just wanna request, then don't leave me again. Or something. It goes something like that. Yeah, it's just immortal angst. I love it. Anyway, so I decided that that's the song that Ambition sings, but of course, he sings a very Ambition version of that song, so I don't know what that means either. Just go with it. Why am I weirdly sad thinking about this song? A little bit little part of me kind of just wants to go in my bedroom and cry and then come film the rest of this, but I don't even know why. Ugh, trauma dumping. Cancel her. Let's continue. So he sings this karaoke song, and then eventually, so then they're just kind of like at this restaurant, and then like I needed a scene, so I decided that this is where like, throughout the entire thing, Quest and Method were like huge Explorer fans, and so they like want to know a lot about like the Explorer and like his and like Angel and all this stuff. So I figure like when they're just sitting down at this restaurant, they finally are like, really pressing Ambition, like, so like how did all of that work? And Ambition is finally like, yeah, so my mom is Angel. My dad did think she was dead though. That basically like, yeah, I grew up as a nil, and like cause my mom got pregnant with me when she was a teenager, and then, my dad went off and got like superpowers, and I was like, my mom went off and had me and like did her best to raise me, and wasn't the best at it, and then she died. No fanfare there, she just died, and I was sent to live with my dad, and I found out he was the Explorer, which was crazy to me because I was like a huge fan of the Explorer. And then he raised me, and then recently died, and was a great dad. Now I know why I want to cry. And they're like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, because like he doesn't like tell her like, oh yeah, she was awful, she was abusive. He's just like, she raised me. She raised me. And then, so he's like, and then my dad also recently passed, for, totally natural, normal reasons. And, just, I don't want to dwell on it. I don't want to dwell on the past. I'd rather just move on and forget about things. And Quest is like, bestie, you literally were like telling me to like move on and not do that. And then I want to say that like, they go back home, they change the subject, they go back home, and then like, he's taking, Quest and Method home, and he like stops, like Method goes inside and he like stops Quest. No, I guess Illustration and Jim were with them.
Okay, editing Sarah here. I just confused myself listening to this section. Basically, it's Ambition, Illustration, Jim, and Quest. They're all outside, but Method is inside. So it's the whole group sans Method. Got it.
And he's like, yo, so like, I told you my tragic backstory. Why is he sad all the time, your brother? And Quest is like, man, I mean, or maybe it would be better if like Illustration or Jim brought it up. Somebody brings up like, yo, what happened? Why is he like that? And so Quest is eventually like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll tell you our tragic backstory. So she like tells them like, yeah, when Method was a kid, he had this best friend, and his best friend's he went over to his sleepover at his best friend's house, and his mom and the best friend's mom murdered a guy, and Method saw the whole thing, and then Method was locked in a basement for a week, and then his best friend killed the mom, and then that's how he got out. And it was a very traumatic event, and he doesn't like to talk about it. And Ambition's like, yeah, it seems like it really would suck. And Quest is like, yeah, it was hard for me too, because like, it's not like she was like, well, it was hard for me, but she's like, yeah, I'll be honest, like sometimes I still get like freaked out by it, like when Method, when I can't get a hold of Method, sometimes she just gets really scared that like something bad happened to him, because for a week there she had no clue where her brother was or this childhood friend of theirs. And it's just, to find out that like he was a witness to that horrible thing, and then went through all of that, and she didn't know and she couldn't do anything about it, like that really like freaked her out too. And Method was just so miserable after it because of like the ordeal that he had went through, and then also, losing his best friend because of it, that he was just miserable all the time. And so she really tried to like keep, be super positive and like way over the top with everything, just like trying to like keep him, thinking about anything other than that, And she admits that, like, it became such a core part of her personality to be just this sort of, like, circus clown almost, just, like, always focused on, like, making people, like, laugh and happy, that, like, you know, she never really stopped doing that, and that's why she acts like this still, is just all because of that one singular event. And of course Ambition's in the back like, oh man, not only did I screw up Method, I also screwed up Quest. And of course he blames himself for all of it, because he's like, I never should have had Method over that day. As if, like, it's his fault that his mom murdered somebody and threw his best friend in the basement. But, like, it's fascinating how people will blame themselves for that sort of thing. But yeah, I do think that Ambition is after she tells her story. She's like, so he's like, so whatever, like, happened to your childhood friend, and, you know, just to, like, see, like, where they stand via the ambition, the passion issue. And she's like, yeah, we never heard from him again, you know. She's like, yeah, I mean, he did get arrested for, like, murdering his dad, too, supposedly, but, like, that doesn't sound anything like the passion I knew, like, he's basically just dipped off the face of the earth, so, I mean, he might be dead, but... And he's like, do you hope he's dead? And Quest is like, I don't really think about him much anymore. And he's like, oof, okay. Anyways, now feels like a totally appropriate time to have our midsection break, where this episode we will be discussing what my characters think of the movie Heathers. Oh, what is this podcast? Okay, yeah, I was pretty sure it was an anonymous person that suggested it, but I wanted to check. Yeah, an anon on Tumblr asked, no clue if this is related enough, but what do you think Method, Quest, and Ambition would think of Heathers, the movie, or the musical? This really is a fun, yeah. Okay, so again, out of context, as if, okay, this is just Ambition, Quest, Method, Illustration, Gem, because I'm adding Illustration to Gem. Just being buddies, because, I mean, at the end of the story, they are obviously all friends. Oh, crap, I forgot to roll the reel for Illustration and Gem. I will do that after this section. You know what? No, let's go ahead and roll the wheel. We'll spin the wheel for them. For Illustration first... A song that reminds me of that character. Okay. I mean, Oh No is definitely the song that reminds me most of Illustration, you know? I know exactly what I want and who I want to be. I know exactly why I walk and talk like a machine. Like, that's the thing about Illustration, is that she very much wants to romanticize her life, right? Like, she knows exactly, like, the aesthetic that she's going for. Like, she always has, like, her hair and outfits, like, on point. Like, she has, like, everything. Like, she's, like, the like, you know, like that stereotypical, like, nerd girl that, like, has everything color coded and stuff. She's like that, but, like, with aesthetic and, like, interior design. Like when she's showing Method around her library, in the book, the first draft, she's like, she has everything picturesque in her mind, and she's like, this is what we're going to do to your library whenever I am your wife and I get to take over. We're gonna make this place a museum, okay? And he's like, it's a library. She's like, shh, it's gonna be a museum. Anyways, but yeah, so Illustration is very much Oh No by Marina and the Diamonds. I forgot to say that. Let's see for Jim now. Okay, I got Zodiac sign. Aries. Yeah, I feel like that one's really cliche, but yeah, he's an Aries. Obviously, he's an Aries. He's an Aries sun. Aries sun, Taurus moon, and no. Aries sun, let's do Gemini moon, and a Taurus rising. That's a zodiac. Watch everybody in the comments be like, that doesn't make any sense. Shush, this is his zodiac, okay? He lives under different stars. It doesn't matter. Anyways, what would they think of Heathers the musical? Obviously, Ambition and Illustration are going to both love Heather Chandler, right? Like, they are both, like, obsessed with Heather Chandler. I think in the end, well, I mean, obviously, Ambition also likes JD. I'm talking about, you know what, I'm just gonna tell you which characters they kin, okay? Ambition kins JD and Heather Chandler, right? And I feel like Method just ends up kinning Veronica because, you know, if his boyfriend is, you know, JD, then he's gotta be Veronica. I just realized that I spoiled it, but everybody knows. Everybody knows. Quest is so not Heather Duke, Heather McNamara. I'm doing musical and musical, you know, the musical and the movie characters kind of blend together in my mind, but like that means that Jim has to be Heather Duke, which I think is hilarious. No, I haven't drawn Jim. Maybe I'll draw Jim as Heather Duke, and that will be the only drawing of Jim in existence. So yeah, so if they were the cast and like to throw Pippa in it, I feel like Pippa would also stake a claim on Heather Chandler. And like, see, the thing is, Pippa, I'll get into that later, but basically Pippa doesn't hang out with them as much. Like, when Ambition starts hanging out with this group of people, like, Pippa is just kind of like, y'all are boring, I'm gonna go, like, blow something up, bye. But then, you know, eventually, you know, because they're humans, they all die, and then Pippa's like, sup, man, ready to stop being boring? Yeah, that's kind of how it goes, unfortunately. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, so Pippa isn't really part of their friend group. You know how sometimes that goes where, like, you know, you're married. I mean, you know, me talking to my audience, you know how it goes when you're married. But, you know, like you have, like, your friend group, and then you have, like, that one friend who's, like, a really old friend that, like, you've been with forever. And, like, sometimes you'll go hang out with this old friend, but your old friend isn't part of your new friend group. You know, it happens like that sometimes. Is my computer dying? What are you doing, sweetheart? Why do you sound like this? I've just moved my mic further away, so hopefully you don't hear the bzzz in the background. I do think in general, though, that they would like the movie/musical. I do think that, like, at first, Quest would be like, I don't know, guys, it seems kind of, you know, dark and bloody. But they're like, Quest, get into it. But then Quest ends up being the one, like, this, like, she unlocks her, like, love of, like, crazy gruesome things. Not crazy gruesome, oh my goodness, Heather's is not crazy. Well, the movie. No. Not even the movie. You know, I feel like this, like, unlocks something in Quest, and then, like, when she realizes that she doesn't have to be, like, happy and go lucky all the time, and there's, like, kind of a fun and, like, more morbid thing, she, like, totally gets into it. Why is the trumpet case in here? I forgot. Is this seriously the trumpet case? It's locked. I didn't. Oh, it's not locked. I thought that we got rid of the trumpets. We used to have so many musical instruments. We used to have a grand piano, 3 violins, a mandolin, a harp, a clarinet, a trumpet, an organ. I think that was it. Oh, and a guitar. But now we just have, I guess we still have the trumpet. I don't know why. We have a lot of it. I don't know what that had to do with Overseers, but it's part of the Overseers podcast now. But if they did ever have, like, an equivalent of Halloween, like, I could see all of them going as the Heathers the musical / movie characters. Okay, I know that I said that Ambition would be the JD Kenny, but, like, Method, I could see Method singing Freeze Your Brain. Like, I could not see him singing Beautiful. I feel like he's just, like, a Veronica Kinney by default at this point, you know? That's the thing, the fandom fandomized these characters so much. Like, I forgot that McNamara, like, literally tries to, like, kill herself. I don't see Quest doing that. I mean, maybe. Oh, let's move on. Because I don't want it to seem like Quest is, like, the everything is super great. Like, no, she'll make the occasional, like, mean-spirited joke. Like, she's very much just like, I'm the older sister, and I'm gonna be super goofy, and it's all good, fun times, man. We're just goofing around here. Oh, no. She is my personality. Oh, no. Yeah, so my Quest Kenny, yeah, so anyways, wait, let me consult what actually happens next in the book, because I forgot. Wait, I just read the rest of this outline, and I don't know if I like it. So basically, okay, so the final date, he like takes them to the sunset on a planet with 6 suns. Iconic, very Star Wars. We like that. Anyways, but Ambition and Method after the date, because they just like go see the sunset. But after like the date, like Ambition is like, I'm gonna go talk to Method. He's my boy. We're gonna talk this out. And they start to go on a walk. It starts to rain. It's very romantic. And Ambition is like, oh no, I like this guy. Well, no, he has to have to come to this conclusion earlier. This is what I get for trying to explain the plot of a book that I forgot how it happened. It's fine. So I say that Ambition here almost kiss Method, but then Method, what? No, I don't like that. It says Method reveals that there's someone else he loves, but I don't think Method would, like, recognize that he was in love. Because imagine being, like, 17 years old and be like, no, man, I can't kiss you. I'm in love with my boy and my best friend who I haven't seen in 5 years. Me, that would be me. But no, but I don't see Method being that character. So I feel like Method is just like, dude, I don't know you. And he's like, you don't know Illustration either. We're like, oh, but man, this doesn't fit either of their characters. Pass, Sarah, what were you doing? Now I have to figure out how it goes. Oh, I hate thinking. Hold on, give me a second. It's not so much that I hate thinking, I just don't like thinking on the spot, I very much do, like, I think about the characters I want to think about. So when it's like, okay, Sarah, how do Method and Ambition get together? I'm like, I don't know. The kiss, and then the romance happens, and it's like, no, that's not what. Okay, I'm better. It's been years since I've thought about this story. So as 22-year-old Sarah, I think this is how I would do it. And I guess this is just gonna be canon unless somebody comes up with a better idea. I'm begging. I'm on my knees, guys. Anyways, so since the whole book is about Ambition trying to get Illustration and Method to fall in love, like they've gone through these 5 dates, right? I would imagine that after these 5 dates, they're all just kind of hanging out and, they're laughing, they're having a good time, but then like Ambition looks over it and Method is still just not connecting. And so Ambition is like, okay, well, I took you on the 5 dates, how are we feeling? Are y'all all ready to get married? And they all kind of just stop because they realize, like, through these 5 dates, like, they've gotten to know each other really well, but, they're not in love, and, like, none of them are in love, and, like, Illustration and Quest are sitting real close to each other, and they really like hanging out with each other, and, Method's in the, oh, sorry, those are the coat hangers, Method's just chilling in the back, and Jim is not interested in Quest at all. And so he's like, Ambition's like, I'm done goofed. These bitches ain't in love, So he's like, maybe we can go one more date, there's no rules, it's going on a 6th date. What do you think? The most romantic date ever, like Method, you're gonna marry Illustration, what are we gonna do? And Method's like, I'll just marry Illustration. And Illustration's like, we just went on, like, 5 fantastic dates, and we saw so many people that were, like, in love, because, of course, there's romance spots, and she's like, I gotta admit, Method, it kind of hurts to, like, see that you don't really care about me at all, and Quest, and like, Method's like, well, Quest, does it bother you that Jim doesn't really care about you at all? And Jim and Quest kind of look at each other and like, oh yeah, we have to get married, and they're like, yeah, but like, this has all been set up. In other cultures, they have things like gay people and like marriages based off of love, but in our culture, it's just a business deal. We're just business dealing it up. So like, what does it really matter if we're not actually in love with each other? And Ambition's like, that just won't do, you gotta fall in love. And then Method is like, well, what about you, Ambition? You're from our planet. You don't have a betrothed. Why is it so important to you that we fall in love? And Ambition's like, I'm just a good Samaritan. Of course, he doesn't say that because the Bible doesn't exist. And this is where I need to retcon, because I had this idea. Basically, anytime a character is disguised as another character, one of two things. Well, basically, like, I imagine it as, like, Oh, I need to go back and add this to the drawing, but like an extra gem is like hanging off of their earring, right? Or like they're wearing like magical glasses. But let's go with the extra gem because that looks cool. So like explore like Admissions has his like regular purple gem, but like a little like golden orb like hanging from it too. And in Infinity's books, the Explorer's books, he actually came across this as like a way to disguise yourself, this like little glowing golden orb. So Method is like, and Ambition is like, what? I'm not disguising myself. And Method is like, okay, but you do. That is a disguiser on your earring, so I know you don't look like that. And why would you be disguising yourself? So you're definitely disguising yourself. And Ambition is like, this is an accessory. And Quest is like, oh no. And she like rips it off. And then, big dramatic moment where it's like, Passion, it's you. And Illustration and Jim are like, that kid who's like, mom locked you in the basement. And Quest is like, your dad is the Explorer. And he's like, peace, and just pops and disappears into the void. Also, Sammy's in this book, and Pippa's in this book at one point. I don't know what they do, but we'll pretend like he definitely introduced them to those two characters. And so, he has some sort of meeting with the goddess moment. This is the question where I have to be like, is Sammy the goddess or Pippa the goddess? But he talks to one of them, and they're like, go back, face them. Let's say it's Pippa. Or maybe it should be Sammy. Man, I'm just exposing how little of this story is written. I basically had the note that said Ambition and Method fall in love and get married. And now I'm just having to be like, what was supposed to happen here again? Anyways, he talks to one of them, and then he does come back. Because, he expects them to be, really mad at him. And he comes back, and he's like, I'm sorry for ruining your lives. I'm sorry for hiding and disguising myself. I just wanted y'all to be happy. And it breaks my heart because I know I ruined your life. And I made it, and, your life is so much worse because of me. And they're like, no, man, gosh, I had some sort of line written, but I can't remember what it was. But it was something along the lines of Ambition being like, I'm sorry for being the worst thing that ever happened to you, and Method is like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And basically being like, yeah, I'm depressed because but it's like not your fault, and like we can like heal together as long as I open up to the idea that bad thing happened to me and I have to deal with that, and like kind of they both have to deal with it, and then like they can deal with it together and they can heal and move past it. And also Jim is just kind of like, I don't want to get married, and Quest is like, I kind of just want to hang out with Illustration all the time, and Illustration is like, I kind of just want to hang out with you all the time and maybe kiss you. And Quest was like, yeah, I was also thinking kiss you. She's like, can we kiss? And then the kiss, gal pals. And then Method and Ambition is like, yeah, I know my other farm was like so hot and it's probably disappointing to see you. And Method's like, I don't know. I think that this farm is, more attractive, but maybe that's just me. And Ambition is like, me? Ambition is the type that like cannot handle compliments. Like he just cannot handle them. So and of course Ambition is like, I love you. You're amazing. You're also very attractive. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I am the type that cannot handle compliments. I don't like fluff. I hate fluff. Can we go back to angst? Can we go back to angst, please? So they're all sappy. They're all so in love with each other. Disgusting. It's disgusting. I need to stop. I need to stop being Arrow over here. And they all live happily ever after. The end. Nothing bad ever happens again to these characters. There is a whole plot line with Candle. Are we just not going to talk about Candle? We're just not going to talk about Candle. Screw Candle. Candle is a character from the first draft. They don't exist anymore. So they go back to their home planet, and I don't know if they actually like officially get married to each other, because I could see like some beard weddings going on, right? Where like Jim and Quest get married, and Method and Method and Illustration get married, but then, Illustration and Quest just live in one library running the whole place. And Jim just kind of like floats around not marrying anybody. And, Ambition and Quest live at the library there. And everybody's like, it's so good that Ambition and Quest are such good friends. No, sorry, Ambition and Method. Ambition, I don't know my characters' names. And, like, of course, Quest and Illustration, they're just gal pals. It is so sweet. The two girls living together, they're such best friends. They do everything together. They share a house. They share a bedroom. They share a bed. Gal pals. But then also Ambition is just, like, I feel like Ambition was just so tired of, like, his life on the run as, like, this renegade, con artist type. Somebody on Tumblr suggested that they'd be more con artists than, like, pure chaos. And I do love Pippa and Ambition being con artists. Because I feel like that was kind of, like, his teenage drum. And, like, he does, like, still get into it, like all the chaos with Pippa into his, like, 20s and stuff. But, when he hits, like, his 30s, like, him and Method, he's just, like, I kind of just want to, like, live a quiet life with Method. And, like, there's machines and like tonics potions that he can take to look older, so it doesn't look like he's frozen at the age of like 25, which is overseers. They freeze at the age around 25. They they grow up normally, and then when they hit 25 they just kind of never grow, but Passion just looks younger than he already is. So at 25 he does still kind of look like an 18-year-old, or he honestly kind of looks like a 16-year-old, so he kind of just like permanently gets stuck there. But then of course he can use that disguiser and all sorts of other different things to make himself look older. So Quest and Illustration get married. I think that they adopt like kids. I don't think Method and Ambition never adopt kids, just because Method wasn't all that interested in having kids, and it's not like Ambition was like dead set on having kids, especially after his parents. And also, did I mention this? Method's parents are like super dead. They just died of regular reasons, like regular people. But I just didn't want to have to deal with his dad's homophobia. So yeah, they're just dead. Don't worry about it, bro. So yeah, that's how Method and Ambition get together. They just kind of find out that each other exists again, and they're so cosmically in love that they just fall in love. And like they have like this really sweet marriage where they help each other. It's very Katniss and Peeta post Hunger Games, where like they both have been through a lot, but since they have both been through a lot, they like understand. I mean, I guess like somebody could argue that like Peeta has gone through a lot more than Method has, but I don't think that we should understate the trauma of being locked in a basement for a week when you're 12. I don't know what that does to a kid's psyche, but it can't be good. And then Ambition, and so Ambition also like it totally breaks Quest's heart to find out the truth about Sammy the Aspian. She's like, wait, Sammy did what to Infinity? That has to be a plot point in the book at some point. But I don't remember. I don't want to know. Really, this whole part of the podcast, like, I don't know why I felt the need to like go into detail and try to like figure out everything, because literally my story notes for this in the past have just been like, okay, so there's this guy, Infinity, and then like he fell in love with this girl, Dreamer, and weren't supposed to get they elope, baby, Ambition, okay, Method in the basement for a week. Later on, Ambition, Method find each other again, fall in love. No babies this time. I need to be a lot more concise, or we will be here. I'll be like, hey, what's up, 2028, episode 3000 of the podcast. Let's go. We are not getting... I need to say, like, 2082, episode 3000. Like, we will be here forever. It's just that there's so many pockets of the story that like I haven't entirely fleshed out. I do have pockets. I swear there's actual storyline that is fleshed out and makes sense in here. But yeah, we haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, as I said, like Quest, Illustration, Method, Ambition, and Gem, like they kind of form like this friend group, and Ambition is kind of like sick of all like the magical like war, science, fantasy, alien stuff, so he does kind of just commit to life, like a simple life in a library with Method. And because he does live such a simple life, like Pippa, like every now and then Pippa will be like, yo, you want to go on an adventure? But like mentally she's still 17, so like her interests and Ambition's interests are very different, where like she's like like still a teenager and like wanting to like hang out like teenagers, and every now and then it's like fun for Ambition to like, you know, get to be a teen again and just hang out with his like buddy and like go like, you know, con some like idiotic rich people, you know? And but like a lot of times he's just like, okay, cool, Pippa, I'll see you later. And then like she'll be like, cool. And then like, you know, a decade will pass and she's like, hey dude, I know we just hung out. And he's like, it's been 10 years, you know? So yeah, so that's why Pippa doesn't end up being kind of part of their friend group. But we will return to the Pippa Ambition friend fiction. Like their saga is not over yet. In fact, I would say that like most of the art that I've drawn of the two of them, well, I know. Most of what I think about with the two of them going on on adventures are like post Method's death, because Method does live a very long time. You know, he lives to be like 90 or something, but then he dies. And Ambition is absolutely heartbroken, and I definitely think Quest and Illustration, you know, they pass like a lot sooner. You know, at one point Jim dies, you know, and it's always hard for Ambition to see his friends die when he's like immortal, and he's like, I mean, obviously, but like this is like he's like, oh gosh, like I've known these people for decades and now they're old and dying and all of my friends are dying because we knew each other for decades. And so like Method's death really, really, really hits him hard, and it hits him so hard like he can't even stand to be on the planet anymore. So he like ends up going back to his ship and just like, you know, taking off, and he like hits up Pippa again. He's like, girl, we need to get so many drugs and have the wildest time because I don't want to think right now. And she's like, dope, and like doesn't even ask him what's going on, and he just was like, he just doesn't feel for like a decade. But yeah, I should probably just stick a pin. We'll pause here, you know? We shall pause here, get back, we'll get to the rest of it next time, because I do want to say there was a significant amount of questions from last time. Okay, so the pizza anon says red skin, red eyes, white hair, and pointed ears, referring to the ruling class race of the techno gray. And they're like, Paradox? I'm currently listening to the podcast. Okay. Yeah. So, and I think there were quite a few like that where people were basically going like the techno grays, and the people were saying like, so we were right about them enslaving their own kind. And is this Wisdom and Opposites planet? I don't think anybody remembers Opposites names. Everybody's like, is this the planet Paradox comes from? And I'm like, well, yeah, but you know, she's like thousands of years later. But yeah, so that is Opposite in Wisdom's home planet. I keep meaning to do this drawing where it's just like Opposite like in her VR gear with like Wisdom like standing worryingly beside her, and Opposite's like, if the robots started a war, I'm sure they had a good reason for it. Now come on, let's go karting. And Wisdom is like, why is nobody concerned about this? But I haven't drawn that yet, so just keep that image in your head as to what they're doing. I also got a lot of questions about people being like, you said in the Kitty video that Philip had a friend in Sid, and if that friend was Ambition. The thing with this is that there's only like 3 or 4 Ambitions canonically, and there's like thousands of Philips in, I mean probably millions of Philips in Sid. And so like it doesn't work out. No. Basically, the answer is no. Ambition is not the friend that Philip has in Sid. Sorry, but there's like so many houses. Like, I cannot stress enough how hard it would be because, you know, Sid exists outside of time, you know? So Ambition totally could run into a Philip in one of the houses. But just, I don't have an AU where that happens. So no. This person asks, in a previous video, you said that you were having problems with Method and Ambition because you didn't ship them, but you said you shipped their reincarnations a lot. Method has a reincarnation, and aren't Obsession and Knowledge love interest? Knowledge does get a crush on, we'll get to Knowledge and Ambition later on. Obsession. But yeah, so humans do reincarnate in this universe. So Method does have, reincarnations. Y'all, but here's the thing, if every time I introduce a character, y'all cannot do this thing where you demand to know, well, not demand, but I'm not gonna tell. I want who everybody is a reincarnation of everybody, because basically I will establish like a cast of characters, and then like all of the rest of the story are reincarnations of all these characters. So like, there's characters I've talked about that, future characters that y'all know and love, these are the first incarnations of them. It's so hard to figure out which characters I'm talking about. But yeah, basically everybody in this story is just like, you think this is a new character? Nah, it's a reincarnation of that one character I mentioned that one time. You can't escape it. And even characters that I've just like one-off mentioned, like secretly, that character, it's this character in the future. Boom. You didn't think so? You didn't think Postal had any incarnations? Well, think again. Why do I sound like I'm literally losing my mind? It's because I'm losing my mind. Do Avas have to have kids with other Avas for the kids to be powerful, or is it also with humans? So if an Ava has a kid with a human, it'll be a halfling. It works out differently for different races. For instance, if a Terrarian has a kid with a human, normally that kid will get, like, vaguely creation-based powers. Normally they can, like, create like, maybe they can, like, control fire, or they can, like, earthbend. There's just a bender. But normally only on the planet that the Terrarian exists for. And then, like, of course, if an Overseer has a kid, that kid has the same powers as the element that the Overseers... You know what I mean. Do you? I don't know. I don't know either. I realize that people who don't know anything about my story, people who don't obsessively stalk my Tumblr will be like, what is this about techno-greys enslaving their own kind? We will get to that later. There are also a lot of people asking if Pippa's planet is Earth, and I feel like at this point I should probably just say yeah. Her planet is Earth. Did I not say this in the last episode? I thought I did. But, I mean, did I not? Oh, gosh. Now I have to go back and watch. Somebody in the comments told me if I had talked about the guys that Passion made with Pippa to protect her planet. Because if I did, basically Pippa... Okay, I think I did. Because Pippa is, like, worried about the Planet Eaters. Did I talk about the Planet Eaters last episode? Goodness gracious, I have the memory of a goldfish. Oh my gosh. Oh, and there was a lot of people asking questions about, like, you said that Planet Eater's eyes turn completely gold. I guess I did talk about Planet Eaters. So Philip's eyes turn completely gold, and also people saying Dawn's eyes turn completely gold. And they're like, is Dawn a Planet Eater? And then it's like, well, how is he a Planet Eater and Lucid is an Overseer? Basically, we will get to that. There's so much stuff in my universe. We will get to it, but I'm glad people are making connections. Okay, yeah, that's basically a summary of the questions. Hold on. Yeah, basically, that's all of it. Yeah, just a lot of people asking questions that I can't answer yet. Because I will answer questions if it's something that, like, doesn't make sense. Like, if y'all are like, you mentioned this thing, but then you never really explained it and I'm still confused, like, that's when I'll be like, okay, yeah. I don't want y'all to think that the Q&A section is just me to point out questions and then be like, I will not answer this. And also, because the Overseers podcast will be going over, like, pretty much the entire story, then all of these questions will be answered at some point. Yes, even the spoilery ones will get there one day. It might be 5 years from now. It won't be. I'm gonna stop doing this thing where I try to explain parts of the story that I haven't thought about yet. So I think it'd be fun to leave a lot of it open for people to, like, not everything needs to be explained. Okay, well, anyways, so that is my explanation of method and ambition. Have fun with it. I do really like the Explorer's Sun, which is what I've been calling ambition, and the Explorer's Sun design. I just watched this video on Tumblr Sexy Man. My goal in life is to create a Tumblr Sexy Man. Like, people will just take this character and run with it. I feel like a lot of people are calling ambition a blorbo, and I feel like that's just, like, our new word for sexy man. I mean, there is, like, a difference between a blorbo and a sexy man, but a blorbo can very quickly become a sexy man. And I feel like Ambition and Maniac are like my best, like they were my best options to become Tumblr sexy men. Like if we could all just agree to like start drawing fan art of Explorer, like oh my gosh, I think it could be so fun to like make like a fake like the Explorer's son Tumblr blog where like it's all themed after him, and it's like exploring my personal Tumblr sexy man, Ambition as the Explorer's son, and just like posting all like this just like oh my gosh, I just in my head it's so funny like writing like crack ships about like, but here's the thing, because so many of the sexy men like Sherlock, it's like people are shipping him with John and he's never gonna get with John, but my sexy men are gay, so canonically, so they're better. But you can't just like be like, hey everybody, make this a sexy man, make this a Tumblr sexy man. But if I could make a Tumblr sexy man, oh man, that would be a bucket list thing. Anyways, thank you all for listening to my podcast. I will be talking about, I get to talk about Doll next episode. Doll and Canary, my boy. I probably won't get to Canary. I love Canary so much. My child. Anyways, but we get to learn about that next time. But if you want to know anything about the characters, I did make an animatic. A very rough sketch of an animatic. I want to finish it. I haven't touched it since making that animatic, but I might finish it one day. Anyways, I'm just stalling. I will see all of you guys in the next episode of the podcast. Goodbye. Bye.